In just a few hours, the president will leave the White House, head to Dayton, Ohio, and then here to El Paso. One of two stops in the wake of the mass shootings in America over the last few days. Survivors are now demanding action in the wake of the tragedies. Will Congress answer the call after years of inaction? Joining us now is Republican Congressman Brian Babin of Texas. Congressman, thank you for being with us. I know the entire Texas delegation has come together in support of the people here in El Paso, and I know they are grateful for that, so thank you. Let me read you a statement from Congressman Mike Turner, the Republican who represents Dayton, Ohio, who has moved on gun violence legislation. He said, "I will support legislation that prevents the sale of military-style weapons to civilians, a magazine limit, and red flag legislation. The carnage these military-style weapons are able to produce when available to the wrong people is intolerable." Three things: military-style weapons, what some people call assault weapons, a ban on high-capacity magazines, and red flag laws. Could you support action on any of those three fronts?
Well, number one, what is a military-style weapon? We're talking semi-automatic weapons. I think we need to get away from the rhetoric of what weapon or what instrument was used to make these terrible and atrocious murders, and get to something that we can actually pass. Let me just say this.
Okay.
Let me just tell you this. The chances of getting everything that the Democrats want are very, very small. The Democrats control the House. The Republicans control the Senate. There's a Republican in the White House. Let's do something that we can all do together. That's what has to happen. The American people are demanding that Congress act. I've got a bill. It's H.R. 838. I just want to make sure I'm going to hold this up. 838. It has 114 co-sponsors on it, evenly divided between Republicans and Democrats. It's something that we can use right now. We can get it out of the Judiciary Committee in the House. There's already a bipartisan counterpart to it in the U.S. Senate by a Republican and a Democrat sponsor there as well. And so what needs to happen is that we can let's work on the things that are possible right now. And this is possible. Okay. It's called the TAPS Act, the Threat Assessment, Prevention, and Safety Act. And what it does, it takes an existing process that was developed by the Secret Service over 3 decades ago after Ronald Reagan had an assassination attempt. It works. It's not in the hands. It's in the hands of the federal government, the FBI, the Capitol Hill Police. It keeps us safe with the same thing. It identifies threats. It assesses these threats, and if the threat is deemed serious, then they mitigate and manage this threat. Right. It works. Right. We haven't had
I understand.
It's used by...
I understand. It assesses...
LAPD uses it.
We have limited time. It assesses threats, and it does have bipartisan support. A lot of people look at that, including its supporters, and say, and then what? Because it doesn't give police, it doesn't give communities the right to go then take the weapons away from someone that it identifies as a threat. It doesn't do what the red flags laws would do. I'm just asking you yes or no. Would you support the red flag laws?
John, we have a constitution.
I'm just giving you a yes or no. Okay, so
we have a constitution.
No, you would not support
we have to abide by the Constitution. No, I would support any law that does not infringe upon our constitutional rights. Because let's say someone's ex-wife decides she doesn't like them anymore, or somebody's ex-husband and makes a threat, calls the authorities and says this person is a bad threat to society, he's on a path to hurt somebody. So they go out and confiscate all their guns. They can hold them in a cell, and they suspend due process. Unless that is rectified, I think you're going to have a whole lot of Republicans that may have, and even Democrats that may have a hard time supporting that.
Lindsey Graham, Mike Turner, Rodney Davis, you go around the country, they look at the red flag laws and they say there is due process. It requires a judge to make a decision based on the information that has been given. And from a federal level, all you're doing is providing federal grants to states to encourage red flag laws. So again, this is something that people look at and say there is due process. I understand you are opposing it right now, and I just want to put up on the screen so people see it, the 100-round drum magazine used in Dayton, Ohio. forgetting whether you want to talk about rifles,
Hey,
forgetting
listen,
whether
we
you
can
want to
have
talk about the
meetings.
guns
Hey,
themselves.
John, we can have discussions about the drums and the magazines. We can have meaningful discussions. But right now, let's do something that's possible. Let's look at the possible right now.
But no. It's possible. Mike Turner, Rodney Davis, Adam Kinzinger, Republicans that we have spoken to in the last few days, that's the rifle, but the 100 Drum Round magazine have said they'd be willing to limit high-capacity magazines. So there is bipartisan support for that. Not just Democratic, bipartisan support. Why should there be legal protections for people to have 100 Drum magazine?
John, I just told you I'm willing to come to the table and discuss these types of things. But right now, we have the opportunity. There's 114 co-sponsors from the Democrat Party and the Republican Party, both sides of the aisle. This is something that we can do. This is a process that works.
Sure.
The LAPD has been using it for years. Listen, if it's good enough for celebrities in Hollywood and the president and congressmen, then it's good enough for the average person in America to be protected by the same thing that they are.
The president has expressed support, we understand. The president has expressed support, we understand, for the red flag laws. So if the president comes out vocally and supports the red flag laws, would you support them?
Listen, red flag laws have a potential. They have a potential to do well, but they also have a potential for abuse. And until we have protections, let me look at the red flag laws that are being proposed. Let's see what protections we have constitutionally. I'm a reasonable guy. Let's see what they are. But right now, I think the American people deserve the same protection that the president, celebrities, Congress, and diplomats, the people that are being protected by this process, the behavioral threat assessment that's been used for 30 years. So let's let the American people have this too. And this is what we can do.
I have time for one yes or no question. I have time for one yes or no question. The TAPS law, again, which is something that a lot of people support, if someone is assessed as a threat, does it give anyone any power to take a weapon away from that individual that your law would deem as a threat?
There are. Listen, if you threaten the president of the United States, a Secret Service are going to come out and they're going to question you to see if you are a serious threat. And then they will mitigate that threat. This is the way this process works.
The answer is no. The answer is no. The answer is no.
No, you're putting words in my mouth, John. I'm sorry.
It has a lot of support.
We will talk about this.
I'm not putting words in your mouth.
I want to see what constitutional protections are put in before I would vote for something and would support something that would take away someone's constitutional rights.
The law which you are supporting, and again, which has some bipartisan support, does something, but it doesn't allow for any weapon to be taken away from someone deemed as a threat to his or herself, or a threat to others, the threat to people like in this mall or in this Walmart behind me where 22 people were killed. All I'm saying is it only goes so far, and why not do it all?
There are states that already have red flag laws, John, okay? And those states, those state governments have deemed that a legal thing. You could take someone's weapons away in those states. But before we had a federal law that would blanket 50 states with red flags, I'd want to see the protections to Americans' constitutional rights before I can support that.
All right,
in a state that has it already, New York or whatever, Illinois, then I think that's probably what would happen, just as you say. But I would not support something unless I know that the American people are safe from a tyrannical judge or somebody that wants to take away their constitutional rights and infringe upon them.
All right, Congressman.
We have the opportunity to pass H.R. 838 now. So let's do that. That's what has to happen.
Congressman, Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham think that maybe you have a chance to pass some federal regulations for red flag laws also. Sit down, talk with them. Thank you for being with us this morning.